Uh, Hello, everyone. Hope you're doing well. Actually, last session we talked about historical and biographical approaches to literature. We actually talked about biography and history as two key words in analysis of any work of art. So, as we said, the followers of historical and biographical approaches to literature strongly and firmly believe that in order to analyze any work of art, you have to pay attention to these keywords, right? These two keywords, history and biography, are really, really important in analysis of any work of art. They believe that a work of art is the product of its time, so it is historical, and it actually is the product of the experiences of the poet and the writer himself, and this is actually biography. And we also examine certain works. We referred to Charles Dickens's A Tale of Two Cities, and Charles Dickens is a good example when we want to analyze his works through the lens of historical and biographical approaches to literature. Yes, and any writer, even William Shakespeare, can be studied through the lens of historical and biographical approaches. Why is that so? It is because the works written by William Shakespeare actually are the product of his own time, right? They were written in a certain specific time period. So before they tell us about us, they tell us something about the past, the history, right? So history is very important to historical and biographical critics. Uh, William Shakespeare composed a lot of sonnets. So should we read these sonnets along without actually referring to the time period in which they were actually written? Should we pay attention to the biography of Shakespeare himself when we want to analyze these sonnets? Right, yes. Proponents, actually, or followers of historical biographical approaches to literature strongly believe that we have to do so. We have to go to that time period to find his discourses. What happened that William Shakespeare put pen to paper and composed actually 126 sonnets, right? So we have to know behind this. Even Shakespeare's other works, like Hamlet, can be actually read through the lens of historical biographical approaches to literature. It means that William Shakespeare actually looked at some historical figures and actually tried to talk about those historical figures in his own works, right? Hamlet, that we are going to talk about today, is a great example to analyze through the lens of actually historical biographical approaches to literature. So Hamlet is actually, uh, let us say, reflection of some historical figures. If you read, for example, all characters, if you study all characters of Hamlet by William Shakespeare, we see that certain characters are really what William Shakespeare saw himself in person, or witnessed, or observed, or heard about through others. Therefore, he decided to actually create historical figures through Hamlet's characters, like let us say we might say Hamlet himself. Who is Hamlet? Hamlet. Can we say that Hamlet is actually another historical figure that William Shakespeare had in mind when he composed when he composed Hamlet? Yes, exactly. So let us go through the play and to see who Hamlet stands for, right? Is Hamlet really a historical figure or something, or not? So today, as you see here, we are going to talk about historical and biographical approach in Hamlet. We want to find out what is historical biographical approaches to literature in Hamlet. So if you look at this title, I actually this slide. This slide, I named this slide as Hamlet, as Earl of Essex. Well, this is interesting. This is got interesting that we want to apply historical biographical approaches to literature. Hamlet as Earl of Essex. If you look at this image in front of you, this is actually the image of Earl of Essex, second Earl of Essex. Why? I'm going to discuss Earl of Essex as Hamlet, or Hamlet as Earl of Essex, right? Some critics believe that Hamlet has some similarities with Earl of Essex. What kind of similarities? Well, if you want to understand who Earl of Essex is, actually I need to tell you some information. But this is a real historical figure who lived in no specific period, and William Shakespeare knew Earl of Essex, and because of this, he actually tried to create some parallels, right, and some parallel characters with him. And Hamlet somehow is said to be Earl of Essex. How? You know, the Earl of Essex was Elizabeth's favorite, right? If you know something about history, something happened during Elizabeth, that is considered to be Earl of Essex revolution or rebellion. Well, she loved Earl of Essex very much. Actually, she was a favorite of Elizabeth. But then she went against it. He went against her. Actually, wanted to depose her and create a sort of revolution or rebellion. But he was arrested and condemned for his treason, and finally he was executed, Earl of Essex. So here we might say we might find some affinities between Hamlet and Earl of Essex, in that both of them are rebellious characters. If you look at Hamlet, Hamlet is going to rebel against his uncle Claudius, who is now the king of Denmark, right? So, and this sort of affinity between Earl of Essex and Hamlet is quite evident through the words that I've written here for you. These are actually the words of Ophelia when she wanted to talk about Hamlet. And Hamlet was a kind of, let us say, lovely person, and of a great person. And Ophelia actually was in love with Hamlet. And Hamlet is very obsessed with the idea of revenge, because the ghost tells Hamlet that his father is not actually naturally dead, but he was killed by his uncle Claudius, and Hamlet is actually to avenge the death of his father. So for this reason, he fakes melancholy, and he pretends that he is mad. And in his madness, Ophelia strongly actually believes him, and actually repeats the words that I have written here for you. She says, "Oh, what a noble mind is here overthrown." That noble mind that she says actually refers to Hamlet himself, right? Oh, what a noble mind is here overthrown. What a noble person like Hamlet here is overthrown, is actually destroyed. She believes that Hamlet is destroyed, is mad. He's lost his mind, is not going to be actually a good person. The courtiers, soldiers, scholars, eye, tongue, sword. And here she says that he was a noble person, noble courtier, a noble soldier. He had actually the weight of a courtier. He had the strength of a soldier, and he had the intellect of a scholar. He was intelligent, and he was actually strong, and he was quite a great gentleman, right? But what a noble mind is here overthrown. Look at this. That noble mind also refers to Earl of Essex. Why? Because he committed something, bad. He went against Elizabeth. Actually, these words are applicable to Earl of Essex, and we can't say what a noble mind is here overthrown. Why? Because he was destroyed. In fact, overthrown. If you look at the word overthrown, it refers to actually politically to actually make a person resign, something like this. And here, this overthrown is actually defeated. Earl of Essex finally was executed and defeated, right? So the word overthrown here actually might be a great example of destroying a person politically by execution or something like that. So he was also a courtier. Earl of Essex was a courtier, and he was intelligent. He was, intellectually full of great ideas, and he was a soldier, as you see, because every person considers himself a subject or a soldier of the queen, right? And he was a scholar, right? Eye, tongue, sword. They all refer to the qualities of a person like Earl of Essex and Hamlet here, right? So here in this case we strongly believe, yes, that Hamlet is quite like Earl of Essex, right? The expectancy and rose of the fair estate, right? The expectancy and rose of the fair estate. Hamlet was actually heir immediate to the throne. He was about to be king, and it was highly likely that he will be king of Denmark, right? And here, because Earl of Essex was kind of favorite of Elizabeth, it was highly likely that he will actually be given a great position in the court, right? The glass of fashion and mold of form. These are actually great words and phrases to describe Earl of Essex, and at the same time they are actually description of Hamlet by Ophelia, because Ophelia was madly and hopelessly in love with Hamlet, and for this reason she is actually using these words to refer to Hamlet, right? And some critics believe that these words are actually made by William Shakespeare, set by William Shakespeare to describe Earl of Essex. And in point of fact, William Shakespeare, through the words of Ophelia, had Earl of Essex in mind, right? The glass of fashion and the mold of form. The observed of all observers quite down. And here, the two phrases, everyone looked at him, everyone admired him, everyone actually respected, venerated Earl of Essex, and here, everyone actually respects Hamlet. And if you look at the play, if you study the play carefully, you will find that, Claudius does not want to kill Hamlet after he finds out that he rebels against him, but rather he tries to send him to England along with Rosencrantz and Guildenstern with a letter written that when Hamlet is actually there, immediately kill him, right? So the fact that he does not want to kill him in Denmark is because he is loved by all the multitude. All people of Denmark love Hamlet very much. So because of this, Claudius does not kill him himself, but he sends him to England to be executed immediately when he actually gets there, right? So these are actually quite interesting words about Earl of Essex and Hamlet, and the word down here actually is in line with overthrown. Why? Because Hamlet right now is mad and does not really understand, but he fakes madness. But Ophelia thinks that Hamlet is actually down or thrown. But as I said, the word overthrown and down actually are suitable words for Earl of Essex rather than Hamlet. Why? Because he was executed, he was down, he was overthrown, right? So these two words actually, the whole 4 lines, 5 lines or more words, more lines, and this play by William Shakespeare actually refer, according to critics, to Earl of Essex. And when you read Earl of Essex, the image in front of you, when you study something about Earl of Essex in full detail concerning his life and what he did, you will find out, yes, that critics are really right. These lines, actually these 5 lines, refer to Earl of Essex, and Earl of Essex is actually exactly Hamlet, or Hamlet is an excuse for Earl of Essex, a pretext by which William Shakespeare, through whom William Shakespeare wanted to actually talk about Earl of Essex, right? So this is actually an example or tangible example of historical biographical approaches to literature, even in Hamlet. So you see, even Shakespeare pays attention to history of his time. William Shakespeare pays attention to the historical, let's say, political discourses of his time, and this is a politically historical figure, Earl of Essex, because he went against Elizabeth, so he was Elizabeth's favorite, but at the end he was executed and overthrown by Elizabeth herself, right? So you see how even William Shakespeare's Hamlet is a tangible example of historical biographical approaches to literature, which means that when we want to analyze any work of art by William Shakespeare, any play by William Shakespeare, like it or lump it, we have to have history in mind, biography of William Shakespeare in mind. Otherwise, the analysis of Shakespeare's actually Hamlet would be, incomplete when we don't pay attention to historical and biographical approaches to literature. And this actually gives us great information about the time in which William Shakespeare as a writer actually lived, right? So here, this is the first example, the first tangible example of historical biographical approaches to literature in Hamlet. And if we move forward, according to some critics, we will find some other historical figures that actually are represented in Hamlet by William Shakespeare. Okay, let's go to the next slide. The next slide, actually, if you look at this slide, you see Polonius. Polonius is actually, according to some critics, William Shakespeare had actually placed Polonius in the play because Polonius can be a pretext because William Shakespeare had in mind the Lord Treasurer, Burghley, right? Presumably William Shakespeare did not really like Lord Treasurer. Everybody talked about him. Everybody hated him. Most especially because of his the spy system, because he actually checked all friends and foe. For this reason, at that time, he was considered to be a nosy guy, right? So, like Polonius, if you look at Polonius in the play by William Shakespeare, what sort of person is Polonius? Do you like it? What happens to Polonius in the play? Right? He's advisor to Claudius, right? Advisor to the king, like Burghley, the Lord Treasurer, who was an advisor to the king. And here it seems that William Shakespeare does not like Lord Treasurer very much, and for this reason he was Shakespeare's target. Okay, Shakespeare's patron Henry Wriothesley, Earl of Southampton, hated Elizabeth's old Lord Treasurer Burghley. Right. Shakespeare's patron actually did not like Burghley very much. For this reason, it is highly likely that William Shakespeare heard something about Lord Treasurer. He heard something that, Henry said something about, Lord Treasurer. It was highly likely that really no one liked him very much, right? Burghley possessed most of the shortcomings Shakespeare gave to Polonius. This is interesting. So Burghley had most of the shortcomings Shakespeare gave to Polonius. Presumably Shakespeare himself actually didn't like a Lord Treasurer either, right? He didn't like it either, right? So if you look at the play, according to critics, he had most of the shortcomings, weaknesses Shakespeare gave to Polonius. He was boring. You know, when sort of person is a boring person, it's a boring person always interferes with your affairs and actually does not make you interested, right? Meddling, he always interferes, and given to wise old adages and truisms. Given to means, you know, inclined to wise old adages and truisms. Always uses, you know, old adages and truisms. So for this reason, critics strongly believe that the Lord Treasurer Burghley is actually Polonius himself. Polonius is, better to say, Polonius is the Lord Treasurer, and Shakespeare is actually condemning this, you know, Lord Treasurer by Lord Treasurer Burghley, Elizabeth's, you know, old Lord Treasurer, right? Moreover, he had an elaborate spy system. Wow, look this. As I said, Burghley actually had an elaborate, a complicated spy system that kept him informed about both friend and foe. Well, he was, you know, a sort of meddling person, nosy guy, and wanted to check everyone, to control, monitor everyone. So for this reason, he has an elaborate spy system, right? Spy system, no checking, and okay, presumably giving some money to some people to check where this person is right now. Okay, check him, control him, monitor him. For this reason, William Shakespeare, or people at that time, actually didn't like this character at all. For this reason, William Shakespeare actually wanted to place actually Polonius as the Lord Treasurer, right? Yes, one is reminded of Polonius assigning Reynaldo to spy on Laertes in Paris. You know, there is a great episode in the play when Reynaldo actually Polonius asked Reynaldo to attend his room, and in fact he's sending his son Laertes to Paris to study, right? And he is clever. He sends Reynaldo to check his son Laertes and tells him, okay, Laertes, wherever, Reynaldo, please check Laertes, wherever he goes and whatever actually he does and with whom he associates, please write him down, okay, check him, okay, and he gives money to Reynaldo and asks Reynaldo to actually keep a close eye on Laertes, his son. In Paris, exactly the same thing. Actually, if you read the story, the life story of the Lord Treasurer Burghley, you will find that he actually used a lot of spies, you know, assigning a lot of spies to check, you know, friends and foes and or all the people, to the point that he was actually recognized by this, you know, elaborate spy system, right? Yes. This side of Burghley's character was so well known that it might have been dangerous for Shakespeare to portray it on a stage while the old man was alive. Well, that's interesting. Well, Shakespeare actually did not really write this play when the Lord Treasurer was alive, because if he were alive, he would actually do something bad to William Shakespeare himself. Presumably, he would imprison William Shakespeare, right? So here the case says it might have been dangerous for Shakespeare to portray it on stage while the old man was alive, because Burghley had died in 1598. Shakespeare could, with safety, do so in this general way. And after his death, William Shakespeare actually tries to go through the life of this guy and actually portray Polonius in the form, or portray the Lord Treasurer in the form of Polonius. Okay, as you see, with these two characters, actually, application of historical biographical approaches to literature. Whether you like historical and biographical approaches to literature, It is actually some approach, some great approach, which actually takes into account history and biography of the poet. Uh, well, actually, this actually in analysis of Hamlet will help to tell us to say something about the historical side of Hamlet. Even Hamlet has, some historical overtones, traces that we have to take into account when analyzing William Shakespeare's Hamlet, right? So one two historical figures we actually dealt with in Hamlet by William Shakespeare. One was Earl of Essex, and the other is the Lord Treasurer Burghley. Uh, well, I think that's enough for today. In terms of historical biographical approaches to literature, actually, you might analyze any work of literature through the lens of historical biographical approaches to literature, provided that you will know at least something about the age, right? Because you're a student of literature, history of English literature is very important. So you have to take into account this keywords, history and biography, because one way or another, even William Shakespeare himself did not like the Lord Treasurer, and it is highly likely that he created the character of Polonius in order to condemn the Lord Treasurer Burghley, right? And these are the things that he had in mind. And discovering these facts can be promising, right? The historically and biographically speaking can be promising if you want to analyze any work of literature through the lens of historical and biographical approach to literature. With that being said, I bring my discussion of historical and biographical approach to Hamlet to a close and wish you a great time. Thank you very much.